සුපිරි අධිවේගයක් පරදා ඔබ මවිත කරවන වේගයක් විඳ ගන්න. පියවර 3කින් ශ්‍රී ලංකා ටෙලිකොම් ෆයිබර් ඔප්ටික් ජාලයට එක්වන්න. slp.lk වෙත පිවිසෙන්න.
Good evening tonight. Calling it quits. Venerable Athuraliya Ratanathera renounces his position as a senior presidential advisor. Seeking support. Opposition leader calls upon former President Mahinda Rajapaksa to support the new constitution. Solution for the North. Former Defence Secretary Gotabaya Rajapaksa says a balance in development is the solution for the issues faced by the people in the North. The Army's role. Former Army Commander General Daya Ratnayaka credits the Army for the disciplined society in the North. And obstacles in tackling corruption. Director General of the Commission to investigate bribery and corruption laments lack of experts and jurisdiction. Live across the nation, this is Sri Lanka's news channel, Derana 24/7. Hello everyone, I'm Mahesh Johnny and welcome to First at Night. Despite Imran Khan claim to have won the election, other political groups are crying foul. We'll have all those details coming up on our international segment, but first we begin here at home. Venerable Athuraliya Ratanathera today renounced his position as a senior presidential advisor, citing lack of consideration given to his proposals and his advice. Addressing an event held in Colombo this evening, the Thera called for the cabinet to be dissolved and criticised the government for its inabilities.
An event was held at the Vihara Mahadevi Park in Colombo today under the theme Developing a National Convention to Bring the Country Heading Towards Degeneration to the Right Track.
Throughout history, these two parties have governed the country separately and now together as a national government. But they're stealing from the nation. Do we need any more experience than this? I'm a senior presidential advisor, though no advice was sought from me. Even the work done based on my advice has been reversed. Therefore, I will have no connection whatsoever to the position of presidential advisor in future. What is the fate of a nation if 70% of it is in debt? We handed over the responsibility of the central bank to a thief. Who appointed this Singaporean citizen despite cabinet disapproval and concerns by various parties? And then who threatened not to remove this thief when problems surfaced? We have handed over the country to the wrong people and now we live like beggars. But we are ready to end that era now. Please dissolve the cabinet because this government cannot do anything.
Convener of the Sri Lanka Podujana Peramuna, Basil Rajapaksa, calls on his party members to rectify their shortcomings and face the upcoming elections. Meanwhile, UPFA parliamentarian N. Kanaka Herath expressed views regarding the dissolution of the intelligence unit at the Balikata prison recently.
The intelligence unit of the prisons established by the government itself was recently dissolved. These officials were the ones who uncovered mobile phone SIM cards of owner of Perpetual Treasuries Limited, Arjun Aloysius. They were also the officials who took action to look for drug kingpins who were organising drug trafficking from inside the prisons. They're selling off everything, including the Mattala International Airport and Hambantota Port. But the buyer doesn't seem to be much interested in what they're buying as well, because we saw what India said at Lok Sabha. Former President Mahinda Rajapaksa lost the GSP Plus because he was rooting to get rid of terrorism. But the current government is going to lose it because they're going to implement the capital punishment. In the meantime, they're postponing the election. Just hold it under any method you want. There could be shortcomings with us. I too have mistakes. We usually realize our shortcomings when we lose an election. Let's rectify all those mistakes and face the upcoming election.
Opposition leader R. Sambandhan has sought the backing of former President Mahinda Rajapaksa in the new constitutional process when the duo met during the 91st founding anniversary of the Chinese People's Liberation Army in Colombo. The opposition leader says that the former president took his request under consideration and expressed confidence that his chance meeting with the former president will not arouse suspicion among the Tamil community. Opposition leader Sambandhan spoke on the matter yesterday in Trincomalee.
A book which chronicles the history of Ravana was launched yesterday under the auspices of opposition leader R. Sambandhan in Trincomalee. Following the function, the opposition leader responded to questions raised by media.
It is true that former President Mahinda Rajapaksa and his brother, former Defence Secretary Gotabaya Rajapaksa, attended a function of the Chinese army in Colombo. It is also true that all of us sat together and discussed various topics. The former president said that he wanted to give a solution to the Tamil people's issue during his tenure and proceeded to give several reasons as to why it could not be achieved. I asked him to let bygones be bygones and asked him to back the efforts to draft a new constitution through which these issues can be resolved, and that we need the support of all in this endeavour. I also told him that supporting it is his obligation and that I'm making this request on behalf of the entire country and not just on behalf of the Tamil people. I asked the former president to back the new constitution as it is imperative for the development of the country. He said he will take it under consideration and he did not object to it. We do not like to fall out with anyone and we aim to get the support of all. What's important is not whether we get the support or not, but the attempts to get it.
Mahinda Rajapaksa அவர்கள் ஏற்கனவே கோத்தபாய ராஜபக்ஷ சம்பந்தமாக தமிழ் மக்கள் மத்தியிலே ஒரு நல்ல அபிப்பிராயம் இல்லாத சூழ்நிலையில தங்களுடைய சந்திப்பு தமிழ் மக்கள் மத்தியிலே ஒரு விதமான சந்தேகங்களை அல்லது ஒரு விதமான பிரச்சனைகளை உருவாக்கும் என்று நீங்கள் நினைக்கிறீங்களா இல்ல உருவாக்க நினைக்கிறீங்களா தமிழ் மக்கள்
There is no such thing, and we've been in politics for a very long time. The Tamil community knows we will never remove their rights. We need the support of all in this endeavour, and I'm sure the Tamil people will understand our discussion.
இந்த கர்மத்தை நிறைவேற்றுவதற்காக
Former Defence Secretary Gotabaya Rajapaksa highlights a balanced development which will lead to economic freedom as the solution for the issues of the northern people. He touched on the subject in response to questions raised by journalists following a religious event held in Kandy this evening.
They asked me as to what we are doing for them politically. I told them that we will continue to do what former President Mahinda Rajapaksa did. We will create a balanced development including economic freedom so they can live as respectful citizens in this country. I told them that we will also eradicate poverty in Sri Lanka.
Commander of the Security Forces Headquarters in Jaffna, Major General Derana Hettiarachchi insists neither army have been withdrawn nor troops reduced in Jaffna within the last 2 years. Speaking to media following a function in Kadawatha today, Major General Hettiarachchi also expressed confidence of the army's capability of quelling any security threats within 48 hours.
Some politicians in Jaffna say the army should be withdrawn and having the army is troublesome. But there is no such situation, and I state with responsibility the people of Jaffna are with the army. Some people make various comments to gain political mileage, but they are not true. There shouldn't be any worries over the security in Jaffna because there is no threat. We have the capability to quell any threat within 48 hours. We haven't made any changes, and we have only made changes at certain locations, taking the prevailing security conditions under consideration. I state with responsibility that neither camps have been withdrawn nor troops have been reduced during the past 2 years.
Former Army Commander General Daya Ratnayaka credits the army with the discipline in the north, which he says that parliamentarian Vijayakala Maheswaran harps about. He said that the control the army had in the north over an extended period of time inculcated in the discipline witnessed in the north. The former Army Commander made the remark at a ceremony held in Colombo today.
A ceremony was organized to commemorate the 28th death anniversary of 65 war heroes who sacrificed their lives to safeguard the transmission tower in Cookaville, which interconnected the communication of North and South. The commemoration ceremony was held under the patronage of former Army Commander General Daya Ratnayaka in Colombo today.
Nowhere in the world in its history of war that 65 people sacrificed their lives together for a goal of the country. Vijayakala says the North was disciplined and safe while the LTT had a grip of the North. LTT could not rule Jaffna for a long time. Up until now, since 1995, it was the Sri Lankan army who controlled the area. The disciplined society in the North was inculcated due to the occupation by the Sri Lankan army.
In other local stories we have for you tonight, Sri Lanka's health system came under praise for punching about its weight during the 131st anniversary of the International Medical Congress, which kicked off on Thursday. Addressing the event, President of the Hong Kong Academy of Medicine, Professor Donald Lee, said, despite being a lower middle-income country, Sri Lanka has simultaneously achieved strong health outcomes, good financial protection and low cost. Meanwhile, President of the Commonwealth Medical Association, Professor Vajira H.W. Dissanayake, applauded members of the Sri Lankan Parliament for their positive response when they were presented with issues of the Sri Lanka Medical Association.
Medicine is at a very, very exciting time with genomics, with very personalized, targeted interventions. There is a serious danger that we will become technicians. What we need to make sure that medicine, in spite of becoming a much more technically proficient discipline, does not lose its empathy. We are all taught in medical schools about preventive and social medicine, but somehow when we become doctors, we forget the preventive aspect and we ignore the social medicine bit.
A recent World Bank Group's report suggests that Sri Lanka's health system is both pro-poor and efficient, because this lower middle-income country has simultaneously achieved strong health outcomes, good financial protection, and low cost. Sri Lanka has achieved much better outcomes in maternal and child health and infectious disease control than would have been predicted. The system embraces effective preventive and curative treatment of minimal cost, which are indeed essentials of quality health care.
The Sri Lanka Medical Association have wanted to make a visit to Parliament and make our case made to the parliamentarians. What we saw that day was contrary to maybe the popular belief. We went there wondering how many of them will turn up. We were assured about 20. We ended up seeing nearly 50. So they are willing to listen. And if we go there every year and make a sensible case, I think there is an opportunity to get what we want done through Parliament, and we need to persevere with that.
Director General of the Commission to Investigate Bribery or Corruption, Sarath Jamana, claims that his institute is facing the issues of not having an adequate number of experts and jurisdiction to properly conduct necessary processes. Addressing a media briefing at the end of the three-day global expert group meeting on the Jakarta Principles, Jamana also talked about necessary amendments taking place to establish the Commission as a strong institution in the country.
With regard to the recruitment, in other countries, they don't rely on the civil service. In the year 1994, when the Commission was established, 200 police officers were seconded from the police department. They are really very good investigators when it comes to bribery raids. But not only the raids, we have to conduct investigation into corruption and assets. For that, we need real experts, accountants, auditors, engineers, bank experts, bond experts, etc. We have 200 investigators. In addition to that, we have 28 legal officers. Our main purpose is to investigate and prosecute. We are not supposed to conduct any prevention, awareness, or any education. All other countries, they have moved beyond this particular ambit. They are very much focused on anti-corruption work, prevention work in government departments. Still, only the public servants are responsible for bribery and corruption in this country. But we have been given a mandate by the Cabinet to amend the existing bribery law, commission law, asset declaration law, and the Commission of Inquiry Act. Commission of Inquiry Act has already been amended. Now Act is pending in Parliament. Asset declaration law we have discussed with various experts. It is almost prepared. Now we are going to amend the bribery law and the commission law. When amending the commission law, we need to get the views, expertise from other countries. In the meantime, SEBOC is preparing National Action Plan. To get the views of the people with regard to National Action Plan, we have now gone across the country and we have had 26 meetings. Now we got the opportunity to learn from other countries how they have performed.
The historic procession of the Ruhunu Maha Kathragama Devala concluded following the traditional water cutting ceremony today. TV Derana and FM Derana partnered as official media sponsors for the Kathragama procession this year.
The final procession of the Ruhunu Maha Kathragama Devala, which is the main event of the Asalapoya festivities, commenced last night at the auspicious time of 7:33. TV Derana and FM Derana were the official media sponsors of the procession. The final traditional ritual of the procession, the water cutting ceremony, was held at the auspicious time of 8:28 this morning at the Jivamali port along the river Manik. The ceremony traditionally concluded the Katharagama Asala festival. Meanwhile, the cleaning program by Manusat Derana themed Manusat Derana for a Beautiful Country commenced at 1 p.m. Milk powder brand Red Cow joined hands with Manusat Derana for the cleaning program in the sacred city of Katharagama today. Several other government institutions such as Katharagama Provincial Council, Civil Security Department and Sri Lanka Police also supported the program.
Well, yesterday was a very exciting night. The longest blood moon of the 21st century appeared in the sky last night, making it a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. However, excitement in the sky does not end there, as the fourth planet from the Sun and the second smallest planet in our solar system, Mars, is to come closest to the Earth on the 31st of July, while the red planet can be spotted until the end of this month. Meanwhile, it was an absolute joy to behold for the sky gazers last night, as across much of the world witnessed the longest total lunar eclipse in 100 years.
A total lunar eclipse occurs when the Earth's shadow moves across the moon, blocking out light from the sun. As the shadow glides across the surface of the moon, it takes on a distinctive red glow, an effect caused by the bending of light in Earth's atmosphere. The longest possible duration of a lunar eclipse is 1 hour and 47 minutes. It will be in 2123 when the next total lunar eclipse of this nature occurs. Meanwhile, much of the world witnessed the phenomena yesterday. Though news has been trending about the blood moon for weeks around the world, people can look forward to another astrological phenomenon set to happen next week. Planet Mars will shine in all its glory, sitting near its closest point to Earth and in opposition. The red planet will be at a distance of 35.8 million miles away from the Earth on the 31st of this month, and the planet normally is 140 million miles away from the Earth.
These days, particularly around July 31st, we can see another celestial phenomena. After 15 years, the Mars will come very closer to the Earth. If you look at the night sky these days, you can see this Mars as a red dot in the sky. What is actually happening here is the Mars is going around the Sun, while Earth is also going around the Sun. And in this movement, Mars and Earth will come closer to each other, and the closest in the recent history. Similar things happened in 2003, and this particular day, the Mars is at opposition, so that Mars will be very bright.
You are watching Sri Lanka's award-winning news channel, Derana 24/7.
Business News Now Associate Director of eConsult and Senior Lecturer at the Department of Economics at the University of Colombo, Indrajit Aponsu, is of the view that Sri Lanka's lack of policy consistency has hurt the Sri Lankan economy far more than calculable. Speaking to Indivri Amuatha during her program at Hyde Park on Derana 24/7, Aponso went on to add that the national government has a responsibility to fund research-based innovation in order to attract foreign direct investments to the country.
In 2015, we had 5% of GDP growth, and then we came down to 4.5%. And in 2017, last year, we recorded 3.1% of growth, the lowest in recent years. And this year, there are several estimates from 4.2 to 4.5, and some say below 4%.
GDP is, I would say, a mother of all indicators. Unless you get the GDP right, you can be quite positive. All the other economic indicators that will show as the health of the economy are in the negative territory. The GDP growth decline has two issues. One is the size of the GDP growth at the moment, and second is the declining trend. I would put the declining trend is even a major issue, because that gives a very negative perspective of the country's prospects for the coming years from the investors' point of view.
As we talk about an enabling environment and also about FDI targets, do you think we here in Sri Lanka have really understood the meaning of policies being stringent, also addressing the need for steady policy management in the country?
We don't seem to understand what the domestic economy strengths, where it is advantages, competitive advantages. At the same time, on the outside, we don't seem to see the challenges we have. GSP Plus is beneficial to many exporting sectors, but it has not still being able to realize, because our domestic economy is not quite prepared for it. There are many investors waiting to launch themselves.
What's pushing them away from Sri Lanka?
We have to have consistent policies so that it will have a symbiotic existence for all these industries to get the maximum out of those policies. At the moment, I think there is a lack of understanding, and on top of that, what they want is, look, don't rock the boat, we'll manage it ourselves. Even that is not happening. As a result, you have created a perspective that things are not looking very good and inconsistent. So that's the baddest or worst recipe for investors to put their cash on the table.
Well, Moody's Investor Service said it confirmed the Sri Lankan government's foreign currency issuer and senior unsecured ratings at B1 and maintained the negative outlook. A statement said the decision balanced the government's progress in reforms against fiscal weaknesses and external vulnerability. The decision to maintain the negative outlook reflects Sri Lanka's ongoing high vulnerability to a potential tightening in external and domestic financing conditions, given relatively large borrowing needs, reliance on external funding and still low reserve adequacy. The feature dominates Sri Lanka's credit profile. The rating agency added that the government could face significantly tighter refinancing conditions at some point during the next few years, quickly leading to much weaker debt affordability and a higher debt burden, especially if the currency depreciated at the same time. Moodys further went on to say that against the backdrop of a fractious political environment, persistent disruptive politics may lead in delays in legislative approval of future reforms, and as a result, perceptions and the country's twin deficit could widen again and could reduce investors' appetite for investment in Sri Lankan debt. Well, official figures released yesterday shows that the U.S. economy grew at its faster pace in nearly 4 years in the second quarter, expanding at an annual rate of 4.1%. The gains were driven by strong consumer spending and a surge in exports as firms rushed to beat new trade tariffs. Despite U.S. President Donald Trump describing the acceleration as amazing, claiming it as proof that his policies are working, many analysts caution that growth could cool in the next coming months.
And I am thrilled to announce that in the second quarter of this year, the United States economy grew at the amazing rate of 4.1%. We're on track to hit the highest annual average growth rate in over 13 years. And I will say this right now, and I'll say it strongly, as the trade deals come in one by one, we're going to go a lot higher than these numbers. During each of the two previous administrations, we averaged just over 1.8% GDP growth. Each point, by the way, means approximately $3 trillion and 10 million jobs. Perhaps one of the biggest wins in the report, and it is indeed a big one, is that the trade deficit, very dear to my heart because we've been ripped off by the world, has dropped by more than $50 billion, $52 billion to be exact.
International news now. A group of Pakistani political parties has rejected the results of Wednesday's general election that looked poised to bring ex-cricketer Imran Khan to power. Khan's PTI party is ahead in the polls and has declared victory, but rival parties allege vote rigging. After joint talks in Islamabad, one party leader said that they would launch protest to demand fresh elections.
A group of Pakistani political parties with tens of thousands of supporters yesterday threatened nationwide street protests unless the country's dispute election was rerun. At the all-parties conference, President of Muttahida Majlis Amal, Maulana Fazal-ur-Rahman said they rejected the election and would start a movement to demand a re-election. Pakistan's former ruling party PMLN conceded defeat to cricket star turned politician Imran Khan ahead of final results from the country's disputed election. However, European Union monitors said yesterday that the polls had not been contested on a level playing field. The party of jailed ex-Prime Minister Nawaz Sharif initially rejected the so far incomplete results, but by yesterday its leaders appeared to accept that Khan would be the next Prime Minister. Khan, during a speech declaring victory on Thursday, offered to investigate opposition allegations of vote rigging and said he wanted to unite the country under his leadership.
You are watching Sri Lanka's premier news channel, Other Derana 24/7.
Sports news now. The first one-day international in South Africa's tour of Sri Lanka is set to be played tomorrow at the Dabula International Cricket Stadium. It will kick off at 9:45 in the morning with the home side attempting to emulate their performances in the Test series where they whitewashed the Proteas 2-0.
Yeah, the wicket looks really good, but only thing is we haven't decided on our combination yet because the conditions change very quickly over here. I mean, if you keep the wicket covered, the grass pops out and can seam and swing a little bit. So we wait till the last moment to decide on the team. No, I won't be bowling in this series, but hopeful of starting to bowl at net pretty soon. But I'll just play a few games, see how I feel, and then play this series and see where we go.
Commenting on the suspension of fellow player Danushka Gunatilaka, Captain Angelo Matthews said, if any player chooses to take a risk in matters which needs to be disciplined, then they will have to face ensuing consequences.
Yeah, it's disappointing to lose out on a player, especially when the team is doing well. We will not tolerate anyone being indisciplined. If they take that risk, then they will have to deal with the consequences. They can be the best player, but we will not give in to any of those indiscipline when it comes to team rules. We do care what they do outside because it affects the whole team and the image.
Matthews also spoke about the recent dip in form of Sri Lanka's ODI performances.
Our limited overs performance have been not so very good. Yes, the team also played pretty badly, but we've had so many captains over the past year or so. Yes, we started off really well with the Test series, so hopefully we can continue with that momentum in the ODIs. But South Africans are a different outfit. They've got so many experienced players in their lineup, so it's going to be tough. If we play good cricket, we can definitely beat them.
You are watching Sri Lanka's #1 news channel, Other Derana 24/7.
A very good evening to our viewers and welcome to Forecast First. Starting off with your temperatures for tomorrow, that will vary between 19 and 35 degrees Celsius with the highest of 35 expected along the coastal line from Batticaloa to Hambantota. Well, when looking at the map, a low pressure zone will develop in the western province and will gradually disappear. Well, the areas of Jaffna, Mannar and Anuradhapura will experience sunny weather, while the areas of Vaunia, Trincomalee, Kandy, Colombo, Galle and Matara as well as Hambantota will experience showers with thunder activity also expected. That's all from the Weather Centre tonight. Up next is your city by city forecast.
And that is a part of your world tonight right here on Other Derana 24/7, Sri Lanka's news channel. I'm Mahesh Johnny. First at 9, we'll return tomorrow at the same time. Be sure to join us then. Now, before we wrap things up for tonight, let's show you more from around the world as many experienced the blood-boon eclipse late last night. Thank you very much for joining us. Have a good night.
bringing you the news and information 24 hours a day. This is Sri Lanka's premier news channel, Other Derana 24/7.